My name is Michelle Caldwell. I'm 26 years old, and the night my father kicked me out, he forgot one important thing. Almost every card in that house worked because of me. I had just come from a 12-hour shift reviewing fraud alerts at a credit union when I walked into my parents' dining room and found a stack of overdue notices beside my plate like it was my birthday gift. My father slammed his hand on the table so hard the silverware jumped. "You've failed us," he said, pointing at me like I was an employee he could fire. My mother didn't even blink. She folded her arms and said, "Leave, we don't need you." For 1 second nobody moved. My brother Ryan stared down at his phone, silent. My father pushed my coat toward me and said, "Take your little job, your little attitude, and get out of my house." I looked at the family business credit card lying beside his coffee mug. The card had his name on it, but the account was backed by my credit, my bookkeeping company, and the paperwork they begged me to sign 2 years earlier when their renovation business almost collapsed. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I picked up my coat, walked to the front door, and stepped outside. Then I opened my phone, logged into the account, and froze every card tied to my guarantee. I sent one text. Perfect timing. I just froze your credit cards. 20 minutes later, 37 calls hit my phone at once. Before I tell you what he said next, and what happened after I walked out, tell me, what time is it where you are right now, and what city are you watching from? I want to see how far this story travels tonight. The first call came from my father, then my mother, then the business line, then my father again. Then an unknown number that I knew was probably one of his subcontractors standing at a register with a declined card and a truck full of unpaid supplies. I sat in my car across the street from the house, engine running, hands still on the steering wheel, watching the dining room window glow like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. My father had always believed he owned the room as long as he could raise his voice. My mother had always believed guilt was a key that opened every door in me. But money had been the one thing they never understood. They spent it, hid it, blamed it, borrowed it, and then called me selfish when I asked where it went. 2 years earlier, when Caldwell Home Renewal nearly lost its vendor account, they came to me in panic. They said it was temporary. They said, family helped family. They said my clean credit and bookkeeping license could save the company. I was stupid enough to believe that helping them would finally make them respect me. Instead, they turned me into their emergency fund with a pulse. The cards were used for paint, lumber, gas, client deposits, restaurant bills, my mother's salon appointments, my father's business lunches, and once, a weekend casino trip he called client networking. Every month, I fixed the books before the damage reached my credit report. Every month, I told myself it was the last time. Then they kicked me out and said they didn't need me. So I believed them. My phone kept vibrating in the cup holder until it sounded like a trapped insect. I ignored every call until a voicemail preview appeared from my father. "If those cards don't work in the next 5 minutes, I swear." I deleted it before the rest could play. Then my mother texted, "Come back inside. Don't embarrass your father in front of his crew." That was the sentence that made me laugh. Not because anything was funny, but because even then, she cared more about his image than what he had just done to me. I shifted into drive. For one dangerous second, I almost turned around. I could already hear myself apologizing, explaining, softening the truth so they would calm down. That was the role I had played my entire life, the translator of their cruelty, the cleaner of their mess, the daughter who made chaos look respectable. Then another message appeared. It was from Ryan. "Dad is losing it. He says this is your fault. What did you do?" I stared at those words until the screen dimmed. I had saved myself, but I had left my brother inside the blast zone. That thought hit harder than my father's shouting. I pulled away from the curb and drove toward my Aunt Carol's townhouse on the west side of Cleveland. Unlike the old farmhouse in the original version, there were no wide fields, no quiet dirt roads, no golden sunset to soften the moment. There were wet streets, traffic lights, strip malls, and the harsh reflection of my own face in the windshield. Every red light felt like a question. Was I finally setting a boundary, or was I becoming the kind of person who used money to punish people? I didn't have a perfect answer. I only knew this. Those cards were tied to my name, and my name was the only thing I had left that night. When I reached Aunt Carol's place, she opened the door before I knocked. She had gray hair pulled into a messy bun, reading glasses hanging from a chain, and the expression of someone who had been expecting this for years. "Did he finally throw you out?" she asked. I nodded once. She stepped aside and said, "Then come in before you talk yourself into going back." Aunt Carol didn't hug me right away. That was what I loved about her. She didn't smother pain with comfort before she understood where it hurt. She locked the door, put a kettle on, and waited while I stood in her small kitchen with my coat still on, phone still buzzing in my hand. "Put it on the table," she said. "Not off. Just down. Let them make noise without making decisions for you." I placed it screen down beside a bowl of oranges. It vibrated again and again, each call moving it a fraction across the wood. My aunt watched it like it was a snake. "How many cards?" she asked. "6, I said. 3 business cards, 2 fuel cards, and the emergency card my mother used like a purse." "Are they legally yours to freeze?" "They're tied to my guarantee, my credit, my company profile. I didn't touch their personal debit accounts." She nodded, satisfied. "Good. Don't let anger make you sloppy." That sentence grounded me more than any speech could have. Aunt Carol had been a paralegal for 30 years before retiring. She had seen families destroy each other over signatures, loans, and the kind of verbal promises that never looked dangerous until a bank got involved. She made tea, but she didn't tell me everything would be fine. She said, "Fine is later. Tonight is documentation." So we sat at her kitchen table and built a folder. Screenshots of the frozen accounts, copies of the cardholder agreements, emails where my father called the cards Michelle's business credit line, texts where my mother asked me to cover the balance until next month. I forwarded everything to a private email address Aunt Carol helped me create. For the first time, I saw my life arranged as evidence. Not feelings, not drama. Evidence. And evidence does something memory can't do. It refuses to be talked out of existence. Around midnight, my mother left a voicemail. Aunt Carol asked if I wanted to hear it. I said yes, even though my stomach tightened as soon as her voice filled the kitchen. "Michelle, sweetheart, your father is just stressed. You know how he gets when money is tight. You made your point. Now unlock the cards before someone important finds out." Someone important. Not before your credit gets damaged. Not before you're hurt more. Someone important. My father's voicemail came next. No sweetness, no pretending. "You think you're powerful now? You're nothing without this family. Unlock the cards or I'll tell everyone you stole from us." Aunt Carol paused the message, looked at me over her glasses and said, "There it is. There what is. The threat. Keep that one." I wanted to feel brave. Instead, I felt cold. Not calm, not peaceful, just cold in a way that scared me. When my phone rang again, I almost answered just to say something cruel enough to make him feel what I felt. My thumb hovered over the green button. Aunt Carol saw it. "Michelle," she said quietly, "don't become fluent in their language just because you finally have a weapon." I set the phone down. That was the first real test. Not freezing the cards, not walking out. The test was whether I could protect myself without turning into my father. The next morning, I woke up on Aunt Carol's couch with my shoes still beside me and a stiff ache in my neck. There were 58 missed calls, 12 voicemails, and a new message from Ryan. Dad took my car keys. He says, if I talk to you, I'm choosing sides. I sat up so fast the blanket fell to the floor. Aunt Carol was already in the doorway holding coffee. What happened? She asked. I showed her the screen. Her face hardened. I thought freezing the cards would force my parents to face their own spending. I didn't know it would make everything worse for Ryan. Ryan was 21, old enough to leave, but young enough that our parents still knew exactly which buttons to press. He worked part-time for Caldwell Home Renewal while taking classes at community college, and my father treated both like favors he could revoke. Tuition help? Conditional. Car keys? Conditional. A bedroom? Conditional. Approval? Impossible. I texted Ryan 3 words. Are you safe? He didn't answer for 11 minutes. Those 11 minutes felt longer than the night I had spent on Aunt Carol's couch. Finally, a message came through. Physically, yes. But Dad says I'm off the payroll until I convince you to unlock everything. My jaw tightened. There it was. My father couldn't control me, so he reached for the person who still lived under his roof. I called Ryan. He answered on the second ring, whispering, I'm in the garage. Did he hurt you? I asked. No. He threw a tape measure at the wall, not me. He tried to laugh, but it broke halfway through. He said you ruined a cabinet delivery this morning. The supplier wouldn't release materials because the card declined. Then he told Mom you planned this because you hate the family. Ryan, listen to me. I froze cards under my name. I didn't touch their bank account. I didn't steal anything. I know, he said quickly. I know you wouldn't. But they're telling everyone you did. I closed my eyes. This was how my parents won arguments. They didn't prove things. They repeated them loudly until exhausted people accepted the story. Meet me somewhere public, I said. The coffee shop near campus. 30 minutes. Dad took my keys. Can you walk? It's raining. Then I'm coming. Aunt Carol insisted on driving with me, not because she thought I was weak, but because she knew my father would be looking for a way to make me look unstable. When we pulled up near the detached garage behind my parents' house, Ryan was standing under the small overhang with a backpack pressed to his chest. Rain had soaked the shoulders of his hoodie. He looked embarrassed, like being mistreated was somehow proof he had failed. That look made me angrier than any insult my father had thrown at me. Before Ryan reached the car, the side door opened. My father stepped out barefoot, red-faced, holding Ryan's car keys. Get back inside, he shouted. Ryan froze. My mother appeared behind him in a robe, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Michelle, she called, you have caused enough damage. Aunt Carol rolled down her window just enough to be heard. Richard, lower your voice. The neighbors have cameras. My father's expression changed, not because he was ashamed, but because he had been reminded there might be witnesses. I opened my door and stepped out. Rain hit my face, cold and immediate. Give him his keys, I said. My father laughed once. You don't give orders here anymore. They're his keys. That car is under my insurance. And the loan is in Ryan's name. I checked. His jaw shifted. He hated when I had facts. My mother pointed at me. You see what she's doing? She's poisoning you against us. Ryan looked from her to me. His hands were shaking. I could see the old pattern pulling at him. Obey and survive the night, or resist and pay for it. I wanted to drag him into the car. I wanted to save him in one dramatic motion. But leaving had to be his decision, or he would spend years wondering if I had forced him too. Ryan, I said carefully, you can come with us for tonight. Just tonight. No final decision. But you don't have to stand in the rain while they punish you for something I did. My father threw the keys onto the wet driveway. Go ahead, he said. Choose her. But don't come crawling back when she gets tired of rescuing people. Ryan flinched, then bent down and picked up the keys. That small movement changed everything. He climbed into the back seat without another word. My mother started crying then, but not the kind of crying that asks what went wrong, the kind that performs for an audience. After everything we sacrificed, she said. I looked at her through the rain and asked the question I had been avoiding for years. Was it sacrifice, Mom? Or was it control with better branding? She had no answer. Aunt Carol drove away slowly, both hands on the wheel, while my father stood in the driveway shouting words none of us responded to. In the back seat, Ryan stared down at his backpack. I didn't pack much, he said. That's okay, I told him. You packed yourself. For 3 days, my parents turned the family into a courtroom where they were judge, jury, and victims. My phone filled with messages from cousins, church friends, old neighbors, and people who had not spoken to me since high school. How could you steal from your parents? Your father gave you everything. Your mother is heartbroken. Unlock the cards and stop being dramatic. The story had spread faster than truth ever does. According to my father, I had hacked into his business accounts. According to my mother, I had abandoned the family during a financial emergency. According to both of them, Ryan had been manipulated by me. They forgot I had receipts. By the 4th morning, Aunt Carol set a manila folder in front of me and said, You have 2 options. Let them own the story, or answer with documents. I didn't want public revenge. Not at first. I wanted silence. I wanted space. I wanted to build a life where my father's voice was not the weather system controlling every room, but silence had become useful to them. So I wrote one message and sent it to my parents, Ryan, Aunt Carol, and my father's business email. I will meet once at Caldwell Home Renewal at 5 p.m. We will discuss the frozen cards, the balances, and the false accusations. I will record the meeting for my protection. If you refuse, all future communication goes through writing. My father replied in less than a minute. Come alone. Aunt Carol laughed when she saw it. Absolutely not. At 5 p.m., Ryan and I walked into the small office attached to the warehouse where my father stored cabinets, tile samples, and all the lies he called ambition. Aunt Carol waited in the car with copies of everything. I had my phone recording in my coat pocket and a second recorder in my bag. My father sat behind his desk like a king expecting tribute. My mother stood beside him with red eyes and perfect lipstick. The first thing he said was, Unlock the cards. Not hello, not sit down, not are you safe. Just the command. I placed the folder on his desk. No. His face darkened. Excuse me? No, I repeated. The cards are frozen because they are tied to my credit guarantee and my business profile. You used them beyond the agreed business expenses. You let balances roll. You made personal charges. And now you're accusing me of theft because I stopped covering you. My mother gasped. How dare you speak to your father like he's a criminal? I opened the folder and slid the first page forward. This is the card agreement. Primary guarantor, Michelle Caldwell. Authorized users, Richard Caldwell and Denise Caldwell. This is the email where Dad asked me to sign because the bank rejected him after the last default. This is the statement with the casino hotel charge. This is the salon membership. This is the steakhouse receipt from the night you told me payroll was short. My father slapped the papers off the desk. Ryan stepped back. I didn't. Pick them up, I said. The room went still. My mother whispered, Michelle, don't make this ugly. I looked at her. You made it ugly when you told people I stole from you. My father stood, breathing hard. You think a few papers make you smart? I built this family. You built debt, I said. I maintained the illusion. That landed. His eyes flicked to Ryan, then to the office window, where two employees were pretending not to look in. My father lowered his voice. You ungrateful little girl, do you know what I gave up for you? There it was. The old hook. The guilt. The history. The invisible invoice every child in that house was born owing. You gave me a roof, I said, then charged me rent in obedience. My mother began crying again. We were scared. Your father was trying to save the company. If the cards stay frozen, we lose the Miller job. If we lose that job, we may lose the warehouse. Then you should have thought about that before using my credit like a life raft and then throwing me out of the boat. My father pointed at the door. You are not my daughter anymore. The sentence hit the room like glass breaking. Ryan inhaled sharply. My mother covered her mouth, but she didn't correct him. For years, that sentence would have destroyed me. I would have begged. I would have apologized for making him say it. But standing in that office, surrounded by proof, I realized he had been using fatherhood as a title while avoiding every responsibility that came with it. So I nodded. That may be the first honest thing you've said. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. I continued. I am filing a formal dispute on every personal charge. I am removing both of you as authorized users. I am sending corrected statements to the bank. And if one more person contacts me saying I stole from you, I will send them the documents you just threw on the floor. My mother's crying changed then. It became smaller, realer. Michelle, please. We can fix this as a family. No, Ryan said. We all turned to him. His voice shook, but he kept going. You don't want family? You want access. My father stared at him like he had discovered a stranger in his office. Watch your mouth. Ryan swallowed. I have. My whole life. That was the moment I knew he was leaving for real. Not because I told him to. Not because anger carried him. Because truth had finally reached his own mouth. My father grabbed his phone and threatened lawyers, police, public shame, every weapon he could name. I let him talk. Then I tapped my coat pocket and said, This conversation has been recorded. You were notified in writing. His face changed again. Fear looks different on people who are used to causing it. My mother sat down slowly, as if her knees had finally understood what her pride refused to accept. I picked up the scattered papers, placed them back in the folder, and walked toward the door. Behind me, my father said, quieter this time. You'll regret this. I stopped but didn't turn around. No. I'll recover from it. Outside, Aunt Carol was waiting with the engine running. Ryan got in first. I followed. For the first time since this began, my phone was silent. The silence lasted until 2:13 in the morning. I remember the exact time because I had finally fallen asleep on Aunt Carol's pull-out sofa when my phone rang so violently against the side table that I woke up reaching for danger. Ryan's name flashed on the screen, even though he was supposed to be asleep in the guest room. I answered, confused. Ryan? His voice came through broken and breathless. I went back. I sat up. What? I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my laptop, my school documents, Grandpa's watch. I thought they'd be asleep, so I drove back to get my stuff. I was already standing. Where are you now? There was wind in the background. Rain. Then his voice. Outside. Dad changed the garage code. Mom put my boxes on the porch. They said if I wanted to be Michelle's problem, I could start tonight. Something inside me went very quiet. Not cold this time. Clear. Stay where there's light, I said. I'm coming. Aunt Carol appeared in the hallway wearing a robe and holding her keys like she had been born ready. I'm driving, she said. We found Ryan sitting on the curb beneath the yellow porch light, soaked through, two cardboard boxes beside him sagging in the rain. One box had split open. Clothes spilled onto the wet pavement. His laptop bag was under his jacket, the one dry thing he had protected. My parents' house was dark except for the upstairs bedroom window. They were awake. They were watching. I got out before Aunt Carol could stop me. Ryan stood quickly, embarrassed again, as if being abandoned on a curb was something he needed to apologize for. "I'm sorry," he said. "I thought I could handle it." "You are handling it," I said. "This is what handling it looks like." We loaded the boxes into the trunk. A photo album had fallen into a puddle, and when Ryan reached for it, the cover tore in his hand. He stared at it, and I knew exactly what he was thinking. How can people who kept baby pictures also leave you in the rain? That question has no clean answer. The front door opened. My mother stepped onto the porch. "Ryan," she called softly. "Come inside and we'll talk." But she stays out there. Ryan froze. My father appeared behind her, arms crossed. "Last chance," he said. "You leave now. Don't expect help from us again." Aunt Carol stood beside me. "Richard, he has tenant rights," she said. "He has lived here more than 30 days. You cannot illegally lock him out or dispose of his belongings." My father scoffed. "This is family business." "No," Aunt Carol said. "This is exactly how family business ends up in court." My mother looked at Ryan, changing tactics. "Sweetheart, your sister is angry. She'll calm down eventually. Don't ruin your life because she wants revenge." Ryan wiped rain from his face. "This isn't revenge." His voice was steadier than mine would have been. "This is me leaving before I become both of you." My father lunged forward one step but stopped when Aunt Carol lifted her phone and began recording openly. "Say that again for the camera," she said. He retreated into silence. My mother started crying, but Ryan didn't move toward her. That was his victory. Not a speech. Not a slammed door. Just the refusal to be pulled back by tears that had strings attached. We drove away with the heater blasting and the smell of wet cardboard filling the car. Ryan sat in the back, holding the damaged photo album on his lap. After 10 minutes, he said, "Do you think I'm a bad son?" I looked back at him. "No, I think you're a tired son." He nodded, but tears slipped down his face anyway. Aunt Carol didn't tell him not to cry. She just turned the heat higher. The next few weeks were not cinematic. There was no instant healing montage, no perfect new life waiting with clean edges. Ryan slept badly. I jumped every time my phone buzzed. Aunt Carol's dining room turned into a command center of forms, passwords, bank disputes, school transfer paperwork, and job applications. I removed my parents from every account I controlled. Ryan opened a new checking account at a different bank. Aunt Carol helped him request copies of his birth certificate and social security card because my mother refused to hand them over. My father tried one final move. He told a major client that I had sabotaged his business software. Unfortunately for him, that client was a retired accountant who asked for proof. I sent the proof first. 3 days later, the Miller renovation contract was canceled. 2 suppliers switched Caldwell Home Renewal to cash-only terms. The fuel cards stayed frozen. The business line of credit was reviewed. Consequences did not arrive like lightning. They arrived like mail. One notice, one denial, one canceled order at a time. My mother called once from a number I didn't recognize. I answered by mistake. She sounded smaller than I had ever heard her. "Michelle, your father hasn't slept." I waited. "We might lose the warehouse." I closed my eyes. There was still a daughter inside me who wanted to fix it. She was young and trained and terrified of being called selfish. But there was another voice now, one I had built from truth. "I'm sorry you're dealing with that," I said. "But I'm not paying for it." My mother whispered, "So that's it?" "No," I said. "That's the first boundary." The first month at Aunt Carol's house taught me that freedom is not always loud. Sometimes freedom is a spreadsheet with your own name on it. Sometimes it is a bedroom door that locks. Sometimes it is eating dinner without listening for the mood of the most dangerous person at the table. Ryan and I learned strange little things about peace. He learned that he liked cooking when nobody mocked the mess. I learned that I slept better after changing every password my parents had ever known. We both learned that silence could be safe, not just the pause before someone exploded. But healing did not make me soft overnight. Some mornings I woke up furious. I would brush my teeth and imagine sending every receipt, every voicemail, every ugly message to every person who had judged me. I wanted them humiliated. I wanted them exposed. Then I would see Ryan at the kitchen table, working on a college assignment with his shoulders finally unclenched, and I remembered the point was not to destroy my parents. The point was to stop letting them destroy us. There is a difference. A few relatives eventually apologized. Not many, but enough to prove that truth does not need everyone to believe it in order to matter. One cousin sent me a message saying, "I didn't know the cards were under your name." I replied, "You didn't ask." That became a lesson too. People who rush to judge rarely rush to repair. My father never apologized. He sent one email written like a business memo, saying he was willing to discuss mutual mistakes. I didn't respond. My mother mailed Ryan a birthday card with no return address. Inside, she wrote, "We miss the old you." Ryan read it twice, then placed it in a drawer. "The old me was scared," he said. "They don't miss me, they miss the scared part." I think that was the day I knew he would be okay. Not fixed, not untouched. Okay. As for Caldwell Home Renewal, the company survived, but not the way my father wanted. The bank reduced their credit access. 2 employees left. My mother sold her car to cover overdue vendor balances. My father had to take smaller jobs and pay cash for materials. For years, he had taught us that consequences were something children faced for disobedience. Now he was learning that adults face them for dishonesty. I did not celebrate when I heard that. I thought I would. I thought revenge would feel like fireworks. Instead, it felt like standing at the edge of a burned field and realizing you were glad the fire stopped, even if the smoke still hurt your eyes. The biggest lesson I learned was this: you do not owe your family the kind of loyalty that requires you to disappear. Love is not supposed to need your credit score, your silence, your paycheck, your fear, or your future in order to survive. Real family can be disappointed in you without destroying you. Real family can need help without turning you into property. Real family does not kick you out and then panic because their cards stop working. I still ask myself hard questions. Did I wait too long? Did I enable them by cleaning up their finances for years? Did freezing the cards make me cruel? Maybe some people watching will think I should have handled it more gently. Maybe they are right in some universe where gentle words worked the first 50 times. In my life, gentle had become another name for permission. The night my father said, "We don't need you," he meant to make me feel worthless. Instead, he accidentally gave me the sentence that freed me. Because if they didn't need me, they didn't need my credit. They didn't need my labor. They didn't need my silence. They didn't need my brother as collateral. And they definitely didn't need me to keep pretending their control was love. Today, Ryan is back in school full-time and working at a campus tech desk. I still work in fraud analysis, but I also run my bookkeeping clients under stricter contracts than ever. Aunt Carol jokes that our family trauma turned me into the most careful woman in Ohio. Maybe she is right. I keep copies of everything now: agreements, boundaries, promises, apologies, especially apologies, because I have learned that words are easy when people want access again. Change is what they do when access is gone. My parents may change one day. If they do, I will not shut the door just to punish them. But I will not open it just because they knock. There is a difference between forgiveness and returning to the place that broke you. There is a difference between compassion and volunteering to be used again. And there is a difference between being a good daughter and being an unpaid insurance policy for people who only loved you when you absorbed the damage. So if you are listening to this and you are the one everyone calls selfish because you finally said no, I want you to remember something. Boundaries do not destroy healthy families. They reveal unhealthy ones. And if your peace costs people their control over you, that does not mean your peace is wrong. It means their control was never love. My father kicked me out and said they didn't need me. 20 minutes later, their cards stopped working. But the real shock was not that the cards froze. The real shock was that, for the first time in my life, I didn't.